The Gathering of Fools and Tidjane Tihem, aka Biwu. A fake opposition. CAP Côte d'Ivoire, pompously self-proclaimed as the Coalition for a Peaceful Transition, claimed to embody a sacred union against Alassane Ouattara's regime. In reality, from its very inception, this coalition carried within it the seeds of its own failure. Why? Because it made a fatal strategic error. Excluding the one person who remains, to this day, the true leader of the Ivorian opposition, President Laurent Gbagbo. Instead of forming a strong and coherent opposition, we are left with a gathering of fools with no electoral weight, who, believing they were acting shrewdly, handed themselves over to the regime.
Mr. Blake Goody, there is one missing member in this coalition today, the PPACI. Will the PPACI be part of it?
I have no statement to make at this level. Remember that the parties have come together, more than 25 parties, because Ivorians have asked for it, the current situation of Ivorians demands it, and the upcoming elections recommend it to us. It is united that we are strong, and it is an open coalition. Those who believe we need an inclusive election, those who believe we need a reform of the current electoral system, those who do not want us to relive 2011, 2015, 2020 again, those who want a peaceful election, they will join us. Our credo is peace. Non-violent elections, inclusive elections.
Do you have a candidate on the list?
We are not there yet, and I think the coordinator will have time to outline everything we are going to put on the table. We will then have time to address the Ivorians through those we have chosen to represent us.
You are still not eligible yet, so what is the point for you in participating in this coalition?
This isn't about Charles Blake Goody. This is about Côte d'Ivoire. When the country is at stake, our egos must be put aside. What's important is what we're going to give Ivorians. A social project, a democracy that allows them to express themselves freely, and to ensure that this country can move forward for the well-being of Ivorians. That's what's most important. Thank you. If I didn't rush to join EDS, which was established by the Ivorian Popular Front, I won't rush to join Henri Konan Beatty's platform. These are two platforms established. I say, I'm not joining a platform established to fight an individual. I know what fighting individuals has brought to my country. I want to fight based on values, do you understand? Because in our country, we often say that alliances are made and unmade, and we say it proudly. It's a shame for our country. If these are alliances of values and principles, they shouldn't be made and unmade.
But that's the story of Côte d'Ivoire.
We're not here today because we want to change our political status or because we have a personal interest in it, and when it doesn't work, tomorrow we're on the other side. I don't operate like that. We want to build a country of values, a country of principles. Their so-called providential candidate, Tidjane Tihem, will soon be excluded from the electoral list. A slap in the face. A glaring demonstration of their political naivety. CAP Côte d'Ivoire boasts of bringing together several political parties, but what are these parties really worth? Nothing, or almost nothing. Aside from Charles Blake Goody, whose influence has waned since his return to the country, no member of this coalition has proven capable of mobilizing the masses. Who among these opportunistic opponents can rival President Gbagbo in electoral weight and mobilization power? No one. Even worse, this coalition clings to an absurd illusion. The idea that Tidjane Tihem, a banker exiled for decades, has been endorsed by Emmanuel Macron to govern Côte d'Ivoire. As if Ivorians elect their president based on foreign approval. This belief in Western validation reveals their complete ignorance of the Ivorian people and the local political landscape. Don't let people who don't respect the Constitution, who are about to serve an illegal fourth term, make you feel self-conscious about Article 48 of a dark law that no one knew about. It's more serious not to respect the Constitution. So on that level, there's no need to be self-conscious, and don't let yourself be fooled by this kind of thing. The Constitution is above the law. When you don't respect the Constitution, you can't force people to respect the law. So don't worry. The PDCI is back. The PDCI is in great shape thanks to you. All Ivorians can see that. Return home in peace, and above all, I pray that everyone returns in peace, without any problems. Spread the good word, tell everyone that freedom is 7 months away. For that, everyone must mobilize, everyone must vote on October 25, 2025. Don't be afraid. Thanks to God, everything will be fine. Thank you very much and have a safe journey home. A serious opposition should have structured itself around undeniable leadership and a common agenda. However, by excluding President Laurent Gbagbo, CAP Côte d'Ivoire shot itself in the foot. It handed the regime an irrefutable argument: Laurent Gbagbo is isolated, therefore marginalized. While these amateurs flounder, one man remains in the background, patiently observing the collapse of this charade: Laurent Gbagbo. Alassane Ouattara didn't even need to intervene. These fools did his work for him, dividing the opposition, creating the illusion of an alternative, and weakening any real opposition movement. Their facade of unity won't last long. One maneuver from the regime will be enough to expose their true nature, a fake opposition. The evidence is already clear. Faced with Mr. Biwu's imminent exclusion from the electoral list, their reaction has been non-existent. In these flights of fancy, he spoke of Article 48, which people say would be opposed to him. He called it a dark article that no one knows. Big brother, when I say that God does not give everything, that's it. Because you don't know, you say that no one knows. Navel-gazing, egocentrism, narcissism, and I weigh my words. Contempt for his audience. And if it wasn't because you are contemptuous of Ivorians, if you had told the whole truth to lawyer Chrysostome Blaissy, whose pugnacity is well known, if you hadn't deceived him by giving him half information, half truths, Chrysostome Blaissy, who is in Côte d'Ivoire here, would have told you that Article 48 has already been used here in Côte d'Ivoire. So we, Ivorian lawyers, know. But he's going to hire a French lawyer because he despises his Ivorian brothers. They're useless. Because that's how they talk about his colleagues. A bunch of Arabs who are holding him back because they don't know anything. How can you despise your own people and think you're going to change? You have to tell people the truth. Maybe from the beginning, if people knew that, he wouldn't have gotten involved. You alone have no nationality problem. We didn't say anything. You alone say that you were born French by heredity. We didn't say anything. You alone just said that you were naturalized. We didn't say anything. You alone stand up, you say no, that you renounced your French nationality when before you only had one nationality. So what did you renounce? We're here. He's talking about Article 48, which he calls a dark Article 48. But I wanted to remind you that this article was adopted under Félix Houphouët-Boigny, whose grandson he claims to be. Why would he insult the memory of President Félix Houphouët-Boigny? Why? This famous Article 48 was adopted under President Félix Houphouët-Boigny, and those in the know here know that in the 1970s, the president wanted to introduce the principle of dual nationality. The debate was launched around 1972. They went to the assembly in 1974, and the president was outvoted. That's why the principle of dual nationality wasn't included in our nationality code. But that's not us, it's been since Houphouët-Boigny. Dark Article 48, is that us? So when he speaks with such conviction that we have the impression that everything he says is true. The liar there, that's how they are. You look at his face, you don't know that what he's saying there is a lie. That's the reality. And then let's talk about gloom. Was there a darker action that his party took when they went crazy regarding eligibility issues? Do you remember that they went to interrogate the President Alassane Ouattara's mother, for 4 hours to make her say that her son is not her son, or that he is not her husband's son? 4 hours. You will remember that they sent poor Vlahi Dimitri to Burkina. Only Guro can do that. You took a stray bullet in the process. Vlahi Dimitri, poor guy, they sent him to Burkina to go and make a nationality certificate for the president. He was caught there. Is there anything darker than that? But he seems to be different from all that. He came back, he was here, he participated in the government of President Beatty, who did all that. Until the arrest of our leadership, he was a member of their government. It was during the coup d'état that he fled, and it took him 25 years before returning. But in 2000, when the constitutional debate arose, you know everything they did. And the PDCI was with them. All that debate about the and the or. Article 35 of the 2000 Constitution, concerning eligibility requirements, states, I won't read it all. The candidate must be of Ivorian origin, born to a father and mother who were themselves Ivorian by origin. You remember that debate. In this same 2000 Constitution, it is written. He must never have renounced Ivorian nationality. What do we have to say? The 2000 Constitution also states. He must never have claimed another nationality. Here, we are more in the prevalence which is dark, which is obscure, which can be interpreted. Not having claimed is less clear than not having another nationality. Yet this was in the 2000 Constitution. In the same 2000 Constitution, it say, he must have resided in Côte d'Ivoire continuously for the 5 years preceding the date of the elections and have totaled 10 years of effective presence on the territory. That was in 2000. In 2016, we had a constitution that removed all the seeds, sources of conflict, which alleviated this. And it is in the name of this today that some people are beating their chests and saying, I want. Say thank you to President Ouattara for his vision, and that is what should have started by saying. Thank you. A strong opposition would have immediately issued an ultimatum. If Tiham is excluded, we shut down the entire electoral process. But instead, these worthless politicians will settle for weak denunciations, without taking any concrete action. And now that Mr. Biwu is about to be excluded, what will he do? Logically, he should face the consequences and call for a vote for Simone Ihave Bagbo, if she is even allowed to run. But will he do so? Absolutely not. Because Mr. Biwu was never committed to a collective struggle, he always relied on his international network, naively hoping the regime would let him through. A monumental mistake. CAP Côte d'Ivoire now finds itself at an impasse. If Tidjane Tiham refuses to step down, then this coalition proves it was never a serious project. If Simone Ihave Bagbo takes over, then they'll have to explain why they didn't rally behind her from the start. CAP Côte d'Ivoire's greatest mistake was proving to the regime that the opposition is weak and divided. The tyrant Ouattara now knows he can eliminate Mr. Biwu without causing an uproar because none of these so-called opponents have the ability to mobilize the Ivorian people. As for President Bagbo, he remains on standby, but his absence from this gathering ultimately benefits the regime. Without Mr. Biwu, the opposition becomes a wasteland. Among this group of fools, who can rally people to the streets? Afi N'Gaïsen. No one follows him. Blé Goody. His aura has faded. Simone Ihave Bagbo. She has influence, but does she still have the fighting spirit, or has she become too comfortable in backroom negotiations? The most disappointing aspect of all this is seeing Simone Ihave Bagbo lower herself to participate in such a gathering. A woman of such intelligence, with a history of struggle, now finds herself surrounded by opportunists with no vision. She should have refused to sit at this table of fools and demanded a united opposition with a clear objective. If these so-called opposition members had any political sense, they would have realized that their first battle should have been securing Laurent Gbagbo's place on the electoral list. With him in the race, a strong opposition could have emerged. But instead, they chose to build an empty shell, devoid of strategy or mobilization power. By refusing to fight for President Gbagbo, they signed their own political death warrant. The story is already written. 1. Tiham will be excluded from the electoral list. 2. CAP Côte d'Ivoire will hesitate, waver, and eventually collapse. 3. the regime will continue to neutralize the opposition and tighten its grip on the election. 4. CAP Côte d'Ivoire will fade into irrelevance, without impact or influence. This coalition was never a beacon of hope, it was an illusion. By excluding Laurent Gbagbo, it doomed itself to being nothing more than a plaything in the hands of the regime. Now, the only way forward for the Ivorian opposition is to rally behind a leader capable of mobilizing the people and standing up to the regime. But in this farce that is CAP Côte d'Ivoire, none of these fools are up to the task. One thing is certain. Alassane Ouattara has already won this round, and these incompetent fools never saw it coming. Chris Yapi does not lie. Find Chris Yapi on his 2 YouTube channels, his Rumble channel, his TikTok, X, Instagram, VK and Threads accounts.